tell you, I do have a firearm on me.
Don't reach for it then.
Don't
pull it out.
I'm not pulling it out.
Don't pull it out.
He's licensed to carry. He was trying to get out his ID.
A verdict in a case that caused national outrage. Tonight, a police officer acquitted on all charges in the shooting death of a black man after a traffic stop.
Allow me to read a statement from the NRA that was released 2 days after the fatal shooting of Philando Castile, the registered gun owner killed by Officer Yanez back in July 2016. As the nation's largest and oldest civil rights organization, the NRA proudly supports the right of law-abiding Americans to carry firearms for defense of themselves and others regardless of race, religion, or sexual orientation. The reports from Minnesota are troubling and must be thoroughly investigated, later adding, rest assured, the NRA will have more to say once all the facts are known. Alright, now the verdict's in. All facts are known. Officer Yanez was acquitted on all charges and walked free. So here's the statement from the NRA after this. Nothing. Nada. Zero. That's pretty strange, don't you think? After all, you would think this case would have their rifle in a twist, considering that gun owner Castile's treatment by law enforcement violated everything the NRA is supposed to stand for. A law-abiding gun owner falling victim to a senseless killing all because he was exercising his right to bear arms. I mean, you guys have an entire section of your website dedicated to stories of armed citizens, aka law-abiding gun owners in America, using their Second Amendment rights to defend self, home, and family. And Wayne LaPierre may as well have his slogan.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun,
tattooed across his hypocritical forehead. So how the hell is this case not front and center on your website? I mean, Castile even exceeded his legal obligation, telling the officer that he had a licensed firearm in the car, something that Minnesota law doesn't actually require permitted firearm carriers to disclose during traffic stops, unless they're asked. So he had a legal firearm in the vehicle, disclosed it unnecessarily to try and keep the officer informed, was not aggressive, and made no signal to use it, but still ended up dead with 7 bullets in him. Yet the Second Amendment advocates who lose their shit every time someone questions their constitutional right to self-defense have nothing to say on the matter. And it has me thinking, could one reasonably assume that Philando Castile's race might have something to do with it?
Of course! Of course!
Could it be that the same form of racial prejudice that got the man killed in front of his girlfriend and daughter is a driving force behind the NRA's support for gun rights, meaning these rules only matter when the gun owner is like them, a good old white American?
Of course! Of course!
Let's not beat around the bush on this, shall we? If Philando Castile was a law-abiding white gun owner killed by a black assailant, from the moment he took his last breath to the day his murderer was acquitted, the NRA would have been rallying behind him and his family in fundraising off his memory for the rest of time.
There is no greater freedom than the right to survive and protect our families with all the rifles, shotguns, and handguns we want.
But because he does not fit their ideal demographic of who they perceive as the perfect gun owner, and this shooting doesn't fit into the NRA's racially coded drumbeat of fear about violent, out-of-control gang members, rapists, home invaders, and drug dealers, they abandon all that they allege to hold sacred and let this pass. Well, I'm sorry, but this miscarriage of justice represents more than just another example of the systemic racism that plagues this society today. It highlights the undeniable hypocrisy of the gun-wielding constitutionalist and our very own president. Oh yes, Donnie, you're not getting away either, mate. I recall you, during your campaign, describing the performances of the officers who killed Alton Sterling and Philando Castile as
a terrible, disgusting performance that I saw.
But I haven't heard anything from you since that terrible, disgusting performance was deemed lawful by the state. What happened? You changed your mind? Or is the force of the NRA donations you received after those deaths weighing you down at your desk that you couldn't get up to send a tweet or share your thoughts? Or is it just that you, the NRA, and every single conservative who bursts a blood vessel screaming, "It's not the gun's fault," after a tragedy are guilty of being a bunch of hypocritical, contradictory asshats who cannot give a shit about the Constitution you claim to hold so dear unless the victim fits your racist narrative? Officer Yanez's acquittal represents just the latest horrendous miscarriage of justice on a long and growing list of cases that we've now all but normalized. The only light one can take from this dispiriting, awful outcome is that maybe, just maybe, more people will now realize that the NRA are scum rank hypocrites who don't really care about their sacred constitution. Follow me on Instagram at Francis M. Maxwell and on Twitter also at Francis M. Maxwell. Like the video, share, continue to resist.